she's a student. I said, but she dresses weird. She dresses like 70s, and I knew 70s. I was born in 68. 70s were the time that I learned how not to dress, and so, I had the white bell bottoms and all that stuff too. As a, when 1979 went away, I was already 11. So, when I knew, so that's why it never was odd to me that she was dressed like that, because this is a university, people have that expression, and people are dressed every which way and any which way, and plus, in the early 90s, that wasn't too far off from what I had seen growing up as far as how people dress, so it didn't bother me. Well, come to find out, this was a girl, there was a girl in the late 70s who was accidentally killed in Dunn Hall by a drug overdose and an accidental fall. And it was on the second floor. She leaned up against the screen, and the screen gave away. She was under the influence of probably LSD or something, some psychotropic, and she went out backwards and broke her neck. And then there's a guy. So we've seen her several times. Once we figured this out, sometimes you go, oh, I figured it out. Now she can go, she can be released. I don't want her to go. I like having her around. She's kind of fun. One time I went in on a Sunday. I had to go do some data entry, and so I was going in there, and it was a rainy Sunday. I was at home. It was before I adopted my son and whatever, and so I was single and no big deal. So I can go where I want, do what I want. The days. And so I went in there, and she was standing there as you go up on the second floor. She was standing in the nursing place, and I could see completely half of her, completely. Well, it didn't dawn on me that this was the same woman that dressed the same way and looked the same way that I've always seen her. I looked at her and said, "Hey," and I just kept going. And I rounded the corner, and I was just 2 feet maybe from where she was standing, and I'm looking right at her, and she went down the hall, and I said, "Those nursing students are so mean," And that's the first thing I thought in my head was that, geez, I say hi to a nursing student, they just walk by like, these are the people that are going to help me if I'm sick. Yikes! And so I remember having that thought. So I get kind of mad. I was going to go around and say, "Is there a problem?" And when I run around the corner, as quickly as I made that thought, I would have had to seen her, because in Dunn Hall, when you come from the stairs, you're in the middle of the building. All the doors were closed, no door closed, and there was nobody in the hallways. I just went, oh. What the hell was it? Did you see that? They had funky hats on.
Yeah, Chris Labby and Matt and Kyle.
Yeah, looked like a fun bunch. So then there was another thing. Then there was a death by suicide in there of a young man, and he's violent, and he's in that building too. And he, 2 years ago, physically attacked at the exact same time, which is we can't figure out, 2 janitors in the building. One on the second floor, one in the basement. The one in the basement, he had pressed the button, and the elevator came down, and when the elevator doors opened, something came out and pushed him so hard that he went back into the wall on the other side of the hallway and rolled, and he was bruised. At that exact same moment, the janitor on the second floor was going into the end classroom, and she was picked up by here, off her feet, and thrown into the hallway. At that exact same moment, they both screamed. And this is common if you're vulnerable. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't want to explain it because I don't know how to explain it. But they both went running to the main stairs, one going up, one going down to the main stairway. And when they had the discussion, they realized that they were both attacked. So they called the police, and they filled out police reports about being attacked by something they couldn't see. And they actually filled out police reports for assault. And Noel March, a friend of mine, who's the chief of police over here, called me. He was telling me about this, and I said, well, I already knew about it because I was talking to janitors. And because they tend to come to our center because they said that in the center, in that building, our place is the most calm, relaxing place. They never feel threatened. Well, what do we have there? We have many symbols of spirituality. We have sweetgrass hanging everywhere. My office, as far as I'm concerned, I have that protected so that if somebody comes into my office and they're very angry and they want to, do harm to me, I've had people come in. I had a woman come in one time. She said she was going to shoot me. I had somebody come in and say they were going to beat me up. And so I wanted to stop that energy from coming through my door, so I did the ceremony, put what I had to on either side of the door, and it still is there to this day, so that no matter what people come in with, they leave. They don't bring it in my office, and when they leave, it waits for them in the hall, and they can go back with them. So that's we know we have that understanding. That's in our minds. We know that we're protected. We have done ceremony in there several times over the last 15 years ish. So we know that's protected. We don't feel that there anymore. But those are some of the experiences that happened in Dunhall. And then Stevens, when my grandfather was younger and he was going through grad school, and they were doing some repair work to Chadbourne. There was a mason that was rebuilding. They were putting in doorways. They were cutting out brick walls and putting in doorways where they'd have to put in a header, and then they'd have to layer the bricks up on top. And he was reaching down for something, and one of the beams from the header fell down, and it literally cut him in half. And because it hit him right in between the vertebrae, in a vulnerable spot below your ribs, where we're all just held together by one bone and muscle, And it wasn't too hard for it to be severed. And my grandfather said it was really an awful thing. And that was probably in the 30s when they were renovating the building, because my grandfather was born in the 19 teens. And every once in a while, people will see the back end of a mason, just the bottom half working. My grandfather was telling me that as he worked here, because he worked here building the buildings and building the memorial gym and things like that as a mason, and he'd go to grad school at night. And so, he had his experiences on this campus were from the late 1920s all the way up to his death this year. And he retired from university. But he would tell me things that, people would see. But he said, people these days walk around with their eyes on the floor. He said, so you don't see a lot of things. And they walk around with earphones, headphones, and they don't hear. They're gone. They're physically not there anymore. He said, most people. He said, so they're not going to see what's there. So those are some of the experiences. There's many experiences, and when they were building the pool over here at the Union, they'd come across some things that my grandfather said were sacred and shouldn't have been disturbed. But back then they didn't have the kind of oversight anthropologically that we do now, and so things were just desecrated, moved. And my grandfather didn't have a good feeling, but he said something bad's going to happen here. He said, he was telling people, he said, I feel it, something bad's going to happen here. And they're like, don't wish that on us, don't wish that on us. He said, no, I'm not. He said, because I'm here too. Well, one day, if you go look at that, the Wallace pool, and one of the walls, one of the walls fell in, and it blew out the bottom of the swimming pool, and all the water drained into the gym. And they had to actually replace the entire pool and a wall that just fell. No structural reason for it to fall. And so there was a lot of things that happened, a lot of, and I've got more personal experiences, but there were a lot of things that took place. South Stevens in the attic is another place where I used to do some research when that used to be the Folk Life Center. That is a creepy place. But the forest is also very restless.
Like just the bike path and stuff?
Yeah, the bike path and all the trails behind it. They're very restless. They're only restless because there was so much trauma